Well, good morning. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday at 9 a.m. We're over in Boca Raton at Pod Populi and doing our podcast studio. We have a really exciting guest here. And without further ado, and now, by way of Miami, Florida, she is the Vice President of Community Relations at Go Brightline. She's a graduate of the University of Florida. She is the proud recipient of the Athena Award for Young Professionals in 2020. She loves to travel. She obviously loves the Gators. And she loves trains. She is Ali Soule.
What an introduction. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming on. It's it's been a long time coming, I think, with Brightline and it was so exciting when they put in Miami and West Palm Beach, and we're getting closer into Boca and Aventura and Miami and all that. Tell us a little bit about Brightline and why Brightline's so special.
Well, I'd say that you definitely need to ride Brightline to realize what makes us different than really any other train company in the world, frankly. And that's because we are focused on the guest experience, and that guest experience starts, when you book a ticket, whether it's via our app or our website. We've just recently introduced our first and last mile mobility service, so you can get picked up in a Brightline branded vehicle, and you can book that all through the app, where it takes you to one of our currently 3 South Florida stations. As soon as you walk in, it smells like the Brightline scent, and that experience continues both in the station, on board our trains. Our seats are bigger than that of a first class airline cabin. Every seat has multiple outlets. We have high speed Wi Fi. We're pet friendly. We sell food and beverage on board, including alcohol, which is always, the number one thing people ask. And we're really just focused on making sure that when you decide how you want to travel, you enjoy that experience. It's not just a necessity, right? But it's a part of getting from where you need to go, but also enjoying it and being able to relax and do what's important to you.
No, agreed. I mean, I've ridden the Brightline several times, down to Miami and even into West Palm Beach, and the things that I notice, is really, you know, is luxury certainly. The difference between it and I love Tri-Rail as well, but the difference between a Tri-Rail and a Brightline are night and day. And it's just plush seats, and everyone says hello, and it really is a great guest experience. Tell us a little bit about, like, I know that they're doing the like the unmanned stores on board with
Mhm.
the convenience stores and those kind of things. We did a premium, and you go in and it's like a first class lounge. Is there any secrets behind Brightline that they decided to come up with a lot of the great things that make Brightline so well?
I don't know if there are any secrets, but I've been with the company since 2012. So it's been a while now. And before Brightline was ever Brightline, our campaign name, if you will, was All Aboard Florida. And the company, the team, spent a significant amount of time researching and looking at other train providers, both in the United States and, in Europe, which is where you see similar services to what Brightline offers, although there are definitely many differences between the two. And the number one thing that we found was that people in America think of train travel as being a very gray and dull experience. It's not something that they want to do, it's something that they have to do. As I said earlier, it's a way to get from point A to point B. And so that's really how Brightline came to be bright. It's a brighter way to travel. We were focused, all of our stations, if you've been in them, have tons of light. They're clean. Like you said, our teammates are there welcoming you. We have our premium service, which extends both in your first last mile drop off, we have Teslas that are part of that premium experience. Then, when you get to the station, you have your dedicated lounge that includes complimentary food and beverage. When you get on board, the seats are bigger, there are less seats in that car. You do get that complimentary food and beverage experience on board. And so it really is, again, tailoring to people want experiences. They want to enjoy the journey. And that's really what we're focused on. And I would say if there's any secret, it's just that we look at every part of our business from the lens of our guest, and how can we make it the most enjoyable experience for them. And obviously, Brightline today is, it's about an hour trip if you're going from Miami to West Palm Beach. But next year, we will launch our service to Orlando, which will be about a 3-hour trip from Miami to Orlando. And that's where, when you look at if you could fly, if you could drive or take a train from Miami to Orlando, that train, we believe, really is the best option, because getting to the airport, you have to get there, park, go through security. Maybe the crew shows up on time. Maybe there's a weather delay. Maybe you're stuck on the tarmac when you land in Orlando. Who knows? And if you drive, I'm sure I'm not the only one listening here to your podcast. It's taken me, like you said, I live in downtown Miami. On a Friday, I've tried to go from Miami to Fort Lauderdale. It took me an hour just to get from downtown to the Golden Glades interchange, right? In an hour on Brightline, you'd already be almost to West Palm Beach. And so it really will become just a better experience and a better way to travel.
Well, your timing couldn't be better because I think a lot of customers are looking for different options, specifically, going to Orlando or just going on a night out of town because, not dealing, I mean, I love Miami, but I don't love the traffic. So it's definitely an issue down there, and a lot of times we'll actually drive to Fort Lauderdale, and take the Brightline to Miami just because we don't want to do that last 20 miles or so, because it could take us an hour and a half just for those 20 miles, depending on the time of day, and certainly. But it's interesting. Why would someone wanted to, and you've kind of alluded to most of them, but why would someone want to take Brightline, as opposed to potentially like Tri-Rail or Drive, because the fares and the prices, people talk about, but really, a lot of the fares have been pretty reasonable, certainly as they do specials for Miami Heat games and such. Just tell us a little bit about, giving, that value proposition even more to the consumer.
For sure. The first thing that I'll say is Brightline and Tri-Rail are complementary systems, right? Tri-Rail operates on a different corridor than Brightline. It stops about 20 times between Magnolia Park and the Miami Intermodal Center currently. That trip takes about 2 hours. That is a true commuter service that is connecting many different locations on the predominantly west side of I-95. And that serves a population and it serves a need. And we are located on the East Coast, right? We connect the downtowns of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach. Soon, Boca and Aventura will be added to that. But we are express intercity. So it's less than 30 minutes to get from Miami to Fort Lauderdale. And then it's about another 30 minutes to get from Fort Lauderdale to West Palm Beach, right? So that trip, again, 60 minutes versus 2 hours. Some people prefer, taking less time. You talk about the value proposition. I think what we've all realized is that our time is really the most valuable asset. You normally think that your car has the least friction to get you where you want to go, because you can just pick up your keys, walk to your driveway, you start driving. It's not until you encounter that accident, or there's road closures for construction, or there's a rain delay, whatever the case may be, that you realize that there is a significant amount of friction as it relates to driving. And hopefully you are a safe driver and you are focused on the road and not all of the other distractions that we have in front of us, right? But by taking Brightline, we remove all of those barriers. So that's really why we introduced Brightline Plus. As our president, Patrick Goddard, says, we wanted that experience to be as frictionless as taking your car. In our app, you can book a pickup from your first destination to the Brightline station, from the Brightline station to your final destination. And Brightline will take you from point A to point B. And about 30% of our riders have taken Brightline Plus, and we get rave reviews on the experience. But I really do think that, from a business perspective, if you're a business traveler, if you're a commuter, having that time back, that time to do what you want to do is incredibly important. And then from a leisure perspective, like you said, before Brightline was operational, I used to tell people in West Palm Beach that, if they took Brightline to a Heat game, for example, they would probably already be almost back to West Palm Beach before a significant amount of those people got out of their parking lot and got onto I-95 to even make it home. Because our station is about a 7-minute walk from the FTX arena. And I think, again, once you take Brightline once, you really understand the value and the experience that we bring to South Florida. One more thing I'll say is that just we've all seen a significant amount of people moving to South Florida and to Florida in general. We have to start looking as a state, as a nation, into alternative modes to get people off, because people will continue to buy cars, they will continue to use them, but that doesn't mean that that's the only way that you can travel, right? And so we look at this new infrastructure backbone really as kind of like a new interstate highway system, if you will. We're investing more than $5 billion to build this connection between Miami and Orlando, and we expect it to be used by millions of people, especially once we open Orlando. And even if you elect still to drive, getting those millions of people off those roadways while you're driving is a benefit to our environment. It's a benefit to the people who are using Brightline. It's a benefit to those who are in their car.
It really is amazing, and to think about the forethought of Brightline to come up with. I mean, take the stations out right now and think about prior to. I mean, these are building in these crazy downtown areas that have a ton of buildings and traffic and houses and all kinds of stuff, and you really came in with a really good plan, putting together the Miami, West Palm Beach, and Fort Lauderdale. So, tell us a little bit about why Boca and why Aventura were the next two.
Well, you just alluded to our three existing stations, right? And so we're focused on connecting densely populated areas that either are they're walkable, they're pedestrian friendly. There are areas that are close to live, work, play options. There are cultural venues, business entities, and so Miami, West Palm Beach, and Fort Lauderdale all fit that. And Boca and Aventura are right there. So we've, Miami-Dade County has long been looking at implementing a commuter rail system on the Northeast Corridor, which is the FEC Railway Brightline Corridor. And so, in an effort to promote increased mobility and connectivity, we worked very closely with Miami-Dade County and the CITT to move the Aventura station forward. And so, that Aventura station will, 15 minutes, right, will get you between Aventura and downtown Miami. You definitely cannot get from Aventura to Miami in rush hour traffic in 15 minutes. It'd probably take you close to 45 to 60. So that's going to be a huge improvement, right, from a mobility standpoint for the northeast portion of the county. But then Boca, we think Boca is going to be a great next stop for Brightline. And I know that Mayor Singer and the council obviously are very, very enthusiastic about our connection. I'm out in the community talking to folks from the cultural sector, from the business sector, from, the professional sector, lawyers to real estate agents, to museums. And, there's just a lot of synergy and a lot of excitement about the connectivity options that we'll bring. Our station in Boca will be almost right across the street from Meisner Park. So you can walk to the amphitheater, walk to the Boca Museum, an easy connection to the Boca Town Center via one of our shuttles or a private ride. So it just and right where you're based, right in that shopping plaza right down the street from us. So we're really excited about the future connectivity options that will be coming online before the end of this year, and then obviously with Orlando coming online next year, right? It just expands the system and people have more ways to do business, more ways to experience leisure options, and to get to where they want to go. So we're very excited about our two new stations coming online before the end of this year.
So Boca and Aventura will be by the end of this year, and then Orlando would be the by maybe the end of next year.
So definitely Boca and Aventura before the end of this year. This is August 23rd. Last week, we celebrated the topping off for our Boca station, which commemorates the finish of vertical construction. So we're done going up. We're just filling in the interior of our station and our platform. The Orlando extension is about 83% complete. So we expect substantial completion on that around the early part of next year. Then there is a certification process that's led by the federal government. Obviously, safety is our number one priority. So we work closely with them to make sure that everything is operating correctly and as it should before you let guests on board. And then we look forward to welcoming our guests on board as soon as possible. But we don't have a date that we can announce yet because obviously we want people to get excited, but we don't want to say something and then have to change it. So more information to come as we get closer to that, but we're very excited about the Orlando extension to open.
No, fair enough. You talked about safety, and there's a lot of noise, I guess, as there have been train issues. When I say issues, people who have tried to, it seems like, we don't get all the information, and maybe you can shed some light on it, but like cars trying to beat the train tracks, or people walking over the train tracks, or potentially committing suicide in certain things. How has Brightline put forth the message of the safetiness, and talking about a lot of those things that that a lot of consumers are concerned about?
Yeah, I'm so happy that you brought this subject up because it really is something that our team thinks about every single day. Safety is our top priority, the safety of our guests, of our teammates, and of the communities in which we operate. And we have been focused on safety since before Brightline even ran its first train. We work very closely with our local communities, with the law enforcement along the corridor, with organizations like homeless shelters, mental health providers, to make sure that we're getting the right information out to the right people. You mentioned some of the incidents that we've had. It is incredibly unfortunate that people continue engaging in dangerous and illegal behavior, stopping on the tracks, going around the gates when they're in the down position, trying to beat a train, whether you're on foot, on bike, or in a car. It can cost you your life. And so, I would ask everybody on here to take the pledge, with Brightline, and to not engage in that behavior, to stay off the tracks and to stay safe. Our trains clear a crossing in less than 45 seconds, even though it takes a freight train, 2, 3 minutes, maybe if it's a longer one, a couple more to clear an intersection, right? Waiting 5 minutes is not worth your life. It is not worth the risk that you're taking for yourself or for those who are around you. And you bring up suicide. a number of our incidents, right, have been related to suicide. And while Brightline is not a mental health provider, we do believe that it is our responsibility to work with our partners like 211, the Dr. Brandt Foundation down here in Miami, to make sure that people understand and are aware of the resources that exist in the community. So it's National Suicide Prevention Month in September, right? We're going to be working with those two organizations to get the message out there. We also have very good relationships with law enforcement, as I mentioned. Broward Sheriff's Office, I think it was maybe a month to 2 months ago, time flies, did a 2 week activation called Operation Crossing Guard, where they teamed up with the LEOs in Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, and Wilton Manors. And for 2 weeks, they patrolled crossings along our corridor. In those 2 weeks, they wrote more than 500 citations related to rail related activity that was illegal. And so I think that just goes to show that we all need to be patient. We all need to be aware, and we all need to make sure that most of us, hopefully, stop at red lights, and obey traffic signals. Railroad gates and arms and signals are the exact same. And we truly do hope that the community continues to heed that message and just to stay off the tracks.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Brightline really has connected communities, and has a pulse on the community, and has reached out to a lot of organizations, as you alluded to, and we commend Brightline for that as well. Getting into so we talked about Boca, we talked about Aventura and Orlando, and obviously the three existing stations. Um, what is coming next? What's coming next? Is there anything that you can say, announce, what have you? What's the next station, or what are they looking at?
Well, I mean, I think we have a lot on our plate
Yes, we do.
as it relates to finishing construction on Boca and Aventura and getting them hired up, right? We are starting some hiring activities in Boca. Brightline's a great place to work. For those who might know people who are looking for jobs and for careers, right? Getting those stations open is definitely, we have our hands full. And then the Orlando extension, as I said, more than 83% complete, launching service next year. That is a monumental and exciting task in and of itself. We are working with the Central Florida community on the expansion of the system to Tampa and where additional stations in Orlando could and will be located. And then we do build a station in the Treasure Coast within 5 years of opening our system to Orlando. So we look forward to, there's a lot that's coming down the road, but obviously our main focus is on Boca Aventura, and then the ultimate goal, which has always been to get Orlando open and, making that journey in about 3 hours.
So I'm putting you a little bit on the spot. We have any idea on, like, because people ask me all the time, well, how much is it going to cost to go to Orlando, right? And I know we haven't had any published fares. Do we have a range?
So we are working on that, and I can say that it will be, when you even asked about the value proposition, right, and the fares, if you're taking I-95 express lanes today, you're paying $10, $12 to sit in two congested lanes most of the time, hardly moving faster than those, in the general purpose lanes. We really do think Brightline is a good proposition as it relates to time and money. Going to Orlando, right, there will be different fare structures. Working with our leisure partners, how do you work on a family of four, or whatever a family could be that wants to go to the parks? Is there a business traveler? So again, all of that we will work on and release as we get closer. But we know that it has to be, comparable to the other options that are out there.
Love it. Well, I can't thank you enough. And I always end the show on two questions.
Okay.
All right. So what's your favorite all-time streaming series or movie?
Huh.
And what are you currently watching?
Goodness. What a question. I'd have to say streaming series, I like all kinds of TV from like reality trash TV to,
Mhm.
some good HBO shows. I think that The Wire is a
Oh,
great
yeah, that's great.
show. Have you seen The Wire?
Yeah, The Wire, of course.
The Wire
That's
is a
great.
great show. And then what am I watching now? My husband and I just finished on Netflix. There are two series that we've enjoyed. Indian Matchmaker is really good
Oh, I
because I
haven't seen
love learning about different cultures. And
sure.
then there's another show, I forget the name on Netflix, where they renovate an entire house
Oh,
in less than 24
yeah,
hours,
it
like
was,
12 hours.
I saw that too, yeah. I we haven't finished that, but,
It's
it
crazy.
looked pretty interesting, you know,
We just renovated our house,
good.
and it took much more than 12 hours, and
That's
so we
fun.
continue to say, "Where are those people?"
So for those that watch, Game of Thrones, there's a prequel to Game of Thrones that came out, I think yesterday or the day before, called House of Dragons.
I saw that. Are you a
And
Game of Thrones fan?
I was late to the party, and I finally did it, and it was amazing. So yes, I do really like that show. That show I think was phenomenal. And so when House of Dragons, and I watched House of Dragons last night, it's um it's along that lines. It's pretty sick.
I heard it was intense.
It was very intense, and they did a really good job. And it seems like even though the actors are obviously different, the theme seems to be pretty good.
So you
So
can
we'll see.
balance out the intense with, the home
Wait,
renovation in 12
right,
hours and the Game
an
of
Indian
Thrones
matchmaker. Like,
prequel.
sometimes you just need, like, just no nonsense, not have to think,
Yeah.
feel, or anything, and just watch, and be entertained. So Ali Soule, I can't thank you enough for all that Brightline does for the community. That you've brought a transit system to for amazing mobility. Because mobility isn't just up and down and left and right. It's bringing people, from one point to another in a different way and an alternative. And we are so excited that Brightline is here, and we are yeah, thankful. So
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you,
Ali,
David.
for
I'm thankful that you invited me and happy to come on anytime and keep everyone posted on Brightline's progress. So thank you very much.
awesome. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. We will also drop our podcast next Tuesday. So check that out where all podcasts can be downloaded too. Thank you so much. Take care. Thanks, Ali.